Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter and Ezekiel Trezevant, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writers on SI. And I'm the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. We are excited to be with you. We're both in the building today. I don't have the fancy background like Senor Trezevant. I'm in a white room. Some of you probably think it should be padded, but anyways, it's good to be with you all. We're going to talk about everything, and I say everything. There may be a couple things we hold back that we saw from OTA practice today, and because we both get different observations, and that's one of the reasons I love working with Zeke. He's such a blessing to Raider Nation, and to me personally, as a friend and a coworker. But Zeke, I want to start with because I think if we need to preface OTAs. Chip Kelly said something today that it's only the first two steps that matter in OTAs because they're not wearing pads, they're not going to hit. So it's the first two steps, and then basically the play stops. So I need everyone to understand it's not like the combine, which is the underwear Olympics, but you're not going to. This is really about guys working on their craft, those first two steps. So I'm going to tell you the first thing that stood out to me was I had heard how well Malcolm Kuntz has looked, how hard he worked in his rehab, and I watched him really closely today. It was great to see Malcolm Kuntz.
Listen, I'll second that, and then I'll tell you a little bit more in terms of a couple of things that I noticed. But yes, Malcolm looked good. He looked slim, but he looked like he was muscular, right? So you could tell he
Mm-hmm.
made good use of that time off. Even aside from football, I think everybody that's in this room, media, other players, other coaches, I think everybody roots for Malcolm. I remember last year, I'll never forget it when Antonio Pierce came in a couple of days before the first game of the season and announced that Malcolm was out. It literally took the wind out of the room. Every media member in the room kind of took a deep breath, like, man, that hurts even
Yeah.
us, and we're in the media. So it's good to see Malcolm back. We're all ready to see him
Yep.
kind of take that next step that we were all but certain he was going to take last year before he got injured. So Malcolm definitely looked good. I'll tell you the thing that I noticed kind of building off of Malcolm a little bit was just the depth. I love the defensive line. It seemed like there's a lot of depth on that defensive line that they were letting kind of get those reps in. But to your point, right, these guys are not wearing shoulder pads. They're not going full speed. So a lot of what we saw was more so the mental aspect of things. And honestly, that's probably more important right now than anything else because they're all learning a new scheme one way or the other. So it's good to see them take, again, those first two steps and then build off of that. So it was good to see.
Um, Christian Wilkins, let's just talk about it. It's the elephant in the room for some people. I've been telling everyone for weeks there's no panic in the building. I mean, they're being honest that it's taken a while for him to heal. You know, it is not uncommon for guys that have had surgery to have to wear boots. Sometimes you got to go back in either for scar tissue or do a little bit more surgery because swelling has gone down, whatever. But every single person I talk to tells me we fully expect him back by the start of the season. And that's when it matters. He is working with guys, he's helping guys. All of that's good, but I don't hear any panic in anyone's voice. Now, maybe you're different. I'm not hearing that. Are you?
No, haven't heard anything different in terms of his status, but I would also say just kind of for everyone, right? We're talking about a very, very large human being, and we're talking about how he gets around, right? So you don't want to take any chances with that because if you could bring him back too soon, it could hurt him further down the road. And you've made a
And who
huge
cares?
investment. Say it again.
And who cares if he's here? These are optional team activities.
Oh yeah,
And and he doesn't. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, right. So the fact that it's voluntary, like, let's start there, right? But more than anything, you want to protect your players, and just like any business would, you want to protect your biggest and best investments, and that's essentially what he is. You got to take care of him. So there's no need to rush him back right now. Give him some extra time to rest. Come back ready for the season.
100% agree with you. And then the other one, Adam Butler. Those are the Butler and wasn't here. Um, that did not surprise me. There's no um, tomfoolery behind it. He's fine. But I didn't see him out there. Maybe you did. I didn't, and I didn't expect him. So, but a guy that I didn't see today, also Jeremy Chin. But those are the only three guys I didn't see. How about you? Did you? Are
Oh,
those only three?
Yeah, those are about the only three. I was on a, as we you and I had spoke, I was definitely looking for Christian. Obviously, we were trying to find him, but that was my
Mhm.
main focus today. But for the most part, everybody else was there for sure.
And in case anyone's wondering what Zeke and I are talking about, neither of us expected, nor was there any way Christian was going to be practicing. We just wondered if he'd be out there visiting. I
Exactly.
want to talk about some things that really stood out to me. Um, I want to talk about a guy that I've talked about a little, but I've not talked about a lot. And and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but I've heard Lekai, but Leki Fotu, uh, defensive lineman in his sixth year. The guy's out of Utah. Now, I want everyone at home to understand you get a sense of who the coaches are really thinking is going to contribute by the time they spend with guys. If a guy's a long ways away, he's probably not going to get a lot of time. If they think, okay, he's going to be somebody in the practice squad I'm going to develop, he may get a couple of seconds. But I watched Robbie Leonard spend a lot of time with him more than once. And this is a guy, a 6-year veteran on that defensive line. I think he's got a lot to do to make that spot, but they're certainly investing time with him, which tells you that he's certainly somebody battling for one. I was very impressed with how coachable he was today and that twitch. He's got a twitch. Did you notice anything about Fotu?
Yes, I noticed the time as well. I love being around Robbie Leonard. I like watching Rob Leonard work. He's great at developing talent. So kind of to your point, right? Like coaches always, it was your point is already valid, right? But when you have a developer like you have in Robbie Leonard, it's even more so. He's even more particular about where he's spending his time. So I definitely peeped that. But in terms of that twitch, yeah, he's got the twitch, and for the size that he has, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit jealous that he has that twitch with that size. So yes, it was good to see, and these guys are working, man. I think that was the overall vibe that you get is that they're working, and you can't necessarily guarantee how anything's going to work out, right? The other teams practice too, but what you can tell just from a couple of hours, a couple of minutes out there is that these guys are putting in the work and they want differently than what they've gotten the past couple of seasons.
I can tell you, you and I are sitting here today as grown men, exhausted from being out in the heat and then coming into the air conditioning. I'm gonna be honest. There was one point today it was brutal, and it wasn't even 120. I think Heidi told us it was 109 or something, but I was like, man, these guys are working it, aren't they?
Could you imagine being out there? Like it's hot for us. Imagine putting all those pads on and running around full speed, all that, bringing the energy that they're bringing this year. Like it's got to be even more tiring for those guys. So you get a true appreciation of things once you kind of see what they go through on a daily basis.
All right, I'm going to talk to you about a guy that I have been told by people in Pittsburgh. He was a terrific player and a great leader. I was pleasantly surprised. I have high expectations for Landon Roberts. High expectations. I was watching him today. As you know, I stood over there when they were working it against each other, and it, watching him direct traffic, it was a thing of beauty. And I saw a lot of spills in him, and I saw some other things that maybe weren't spillish, but a Landon Roberts, and I was impressed. And again, it's only the first two steps, but he was moving guys around, putting guys in the right spot already. I was impressed for this as an OTA practice this early in. He knew what he was doing. He's moving everyone else around. I'd love your thoughts on the Landon. I was pleasantly surprised.
Student of the game, and I know I love my linebacker, so I've already kind of dove deep in on the Landon, and even when you watch him in Pittsburgh, you could already tell he knew where everybody else was supposed to be. Another thing that I
Yeah.
noticed he excelled at is that a lot of times he might not have been the one that made the play, but because he did his job correctly, it allowed the play to be made by other players on the team. So I think that's something you're going to notice this season is that he's the ultimate team player. He may not get the tackle, he may get the tackle, but somebody's going to get the tackle because Landon knows what his job is and what everybody else's job is. But I noticed today downhill, right? Obviously, they're only going so fast, but off those first two steps, you could tell that steps 3, 4, and 5 are going to be pretty quick, and that when he gets there, he's going to bring some pain. So it was good to see. Again, there's baby steps, right? So we're going to see where they go with this, but Atlanta's going to bring something. And what I think about Atlanta, I think he knows what Robert Spillane did. He's a linebacker. He knows who the top linebackers in the league are, and I think that kind of adds a little bit to the chip on his shoulder, right? Plus the the similarities that they have in terms of Pittsburgh and elsewhere. So I think Atlanta has his own chip on his shoulder. Plus, he wants to show that hey, he's up there. He feels like he's up there, and he wants to prove it as well.
So let's talk about a guy that I when I did all my position breakdown, Zeke, I talked about him having a chance. Um, Today, watching not only what reps he got, but who they were with, he made some really good plays. He only made one bad one, but I was impressed with Kadir Ismail. First year guy, a tight end. He was big. I was surprised at how he moved a little bit. I'm going to have to see him in pads if I think he's going to have a shot. But he was impressive to me today. Kadir Ismail, I'd love your thoughts on him.
I listen. The size stuck out to me too, right? You know, at this point in the season, you're kind of learning numbers, and outside of the main guys, obviously, right? You're learning numbers and who's who. But I took a step over to where Brock Bowers was and the rest of the tight ends, and you kind of peep the size. You see the size immediately, right? So,
Yeah.
like you said, as long as he brings it, the Raiders actually have a pretty good tight end room. I mean, even aside from Brock. So, I think that's an area that they want to continue to build up. And Chip Kelly kind of even kind of jokingly alluded to, hey, you can play 1, 2, and possibly even 3 tight ends, he kind of jokingly said. So I think the Raiders are taking that very seriously in terms of adding to the tight end group and adding versatility in general.
Now, I'm going to talk to you about a guy that was a pleasant surprise to me. He's been around here a little bit, but he did some flashing today. And I thought, all right, I see you, young blood. I see you. You know where I got that, don't you? From remember
Yes.
that bet? Huh?
I said yes. I was trying to hold back my laugh, but yes, sir, I'm here.
Now wait a minute. What were you trying to hold your laugh back from? Because I used the term young blood.
Yes, sir. You used it perfectly though, so great.
Zeke's not used to me using pop culture terms in the right way. We'll talk more about Waka Paka in a minute. Or what
Yes.
was the guy's name?
So everybody at home, Hondo was introduced by the Raiders team and the music at practice today to Waka Flocka
Waka
Flame.
Flocka.
So yes, and
What
listen,
song was he singing?
I one of his good songs. Listen, everybody. Hondo loves Waka Flocka Flame. Okay, loves them.
He was good, man.
Hey,
Now, in the
they were
interest of
jamming.
full disclosure, let's take a minute and talk about music. You can certainly tell Pete Carroll is here, and maybe not Antonio Pierce. The language in the music has been edited out. So if
Yes.
Waka Flocka has any bad language in his thing, I didn't hear it, so I'm not
No.
recommending
Yeah.
it if it's vulgar,
Only
but it
clean.
wasn't vulgar. Huh?
It was only clean music out there today.
Yeah. And some of the music like Bang or Boom Blank, Get Out the Way was just boom and then somebody screaming. So if Waka Paka or Flacca or whatever his name is, Waka Waka, if he's vulgar, I did not hear that part of it, but
Right.
he was fantastic. But it was great. There was great music. We got to hear some Boston, some Def Leppard. And we mixed it up a little bit. What do you think of the new playlist, Zeke?
Listen, I like the fact that they're mixing it up a lot more on a daily basis. Last year, it was kind of more on a day, like from day to day they would. Now it's during the day. They'll mix it up to multiple artists. So last year it'd be kind of hey, whatever the vibe was for that day, that was the vibe for that day, and then the next day they would change it. Now it's like hey, 10, 20 different artists, as much as they can in one practice. So I think it adds to the energy that you feel for sure.
By the way, between you and Tashawn Reed, I feel really stupid when I'm like, "Hey, who's this new rapper?" And you tell me Waka Flocka, and I'm like, "Is he new?" And you're like, "No, he's retired."
Hey, but listen, at least you like them though. Like you like them and you're learning something new. That's all that matters.
All right. So, anyways, back to what we were talking about. But a young guy that stood out, a young pup, Alex Bachman. He was just he was all over the field, and I was impressed with him. And I want to go back to one play. Now, if this was training camp, I need to put this in perspective. They're only doing 2 steps. So Aiden O'Connell would have been sacked. So it didn't count, but he steps up into the pocket after he gets tapped, which means you're sacked. And he throws a 45-yard strike, but he threw Bachman open. There was no stop. In fact, I think you and I were standing next to each other at the time. There was no stop for Bachman. He hit him in stride, 2 steps from the end line in the end zone. Didn't count as a touchdown, obviously, because he was sacked. I don't care about that. It was the throw in the catch. I was impressed with that awesome throw by Aiden, and he had several. But I was really impressed with Bachman. I'd love your thoughts on what stood out with you about Bachman.
Yeah, just the speed and the agility and the ability to make that catch. When when you're at practice and you see the ball kind of go up in the air and it's on that rope, it catches your attention, right? And you kind of try to figure out, hey, where's that ball going? And you're right. I definitely caught that pass and the catch, and you really have to tap both of those guys on the head in terms of how good of a job it was. But his speed was there. I think it's going to add to what Chip Kelly can do with the offense this season, and it's going to be interesting to see.
Let's quickly talk about Aiden, and then I want to get to Geno. Um, I thought Aiden looked better today. In fact, I'm going to be very blunt. It's only OTAs, but I didn't see him one time last year in OTAs even remotely look this good. His passes were crisp. You can tell he's worked with Tom. You can tell he's been working with Olson. You can tell he's been working with Pete, and you can tell he's been looking with Geno. There is no controversy. Geno is the man. There is no controversy. I'm not trying to pretend that there's one, but Aiden does look better. Would you not? To me, I don't even think there's a battle for backup. It's Aiden all the way, and I think Aiden looked sharp.
1,000%. And I think Aiden has we always talk about guys with a chip on their shoulder. I think Aiden has a forever chip on his shoulder, and he always wants to get better, even if it doesn't mean he's going to play this Sunday or play more, whatever it may be. The roles are pretty solidified in terms of the quarterback room. Everybody knows what's what, but at the same time, having a competent and a solid backup quarterback is one of the most valuable assets I think you can have in the NFL. And Aiden definitely looked good. You can tell he's been putting in the work, and he's just waiting for his opportunity. So definitely interested, and not just with Aiden, if you don't mind me saying, Hondo, a lot of the guys that may have been starters last year or played a lot last year that are not playing as much this year because another guy was brought in. I've been interested to see how they respond in practice. Are they stepping up to the front of the line? Are they hanging their heads at all? And Aiden was not hanging his head at all. And I definitely watched him. He was ready to go. He was ready for his reps, and he did look better. And you got to give it to Aiden. He's improved every chance he's had. He's had an opportunity to. So it'll be interesting to see how he does this season.
Let's talk about Geno. I love the guy. I have loved him. I think it was a great move by the Raiders. If I was the Raiders, I also would have went for Matthew Stafford first, which is what they did. I think he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think Geno is I think he's probably the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, but let's just say top 15. Um, I like him personally. I like him professionally. There is nothing about Geno Smith I don't like. He is a very good quarterback and an exceptional leader. And when you watched practice today, when he was in there running it, it just was efficient. It looked, again, we're in OTAs, but tell me a time, because you and I are at every one of them that's open. Did you ever see the Raiders offense last year look that good in OTAs? I've never seen it in the 6 years I've covered in OTAs look as smooth. It was just smooth. I'd love your thoughts on
Hey,
Geno.
listen, smooth and we talk about crisp passes, man. His passes were very crisp, but more than anything, I think Chip might have alluded to this, accurate. Accurate. The man was on the money, whether it's a 5-yard pass or a 10-yard pass. It was on the money, right? And that's on top of the crisp passes. So, yes, I completely agree. Last year the offense didn't look this good. Obviously, the last 2 seasons they were implementing a new quarterback. They're implementing a bunch of new things, but at the same time, they are this season as well, right? And so Geno still looks good. It looks really good. So I think the way the offense is going to run between the additional pieces they added in terms of skill positions and Geno just being able to get them the ball, it's going to be really fun because you don't really know who to key in on the defense, right? They have so many guys that they can get the ball to and that are going to be good with the ball in their hands. Like Geno said today, all he's got to do is his job, and that's get the ball to the receiver, and things will take care of themselves. So Geno looks good out there. Those passes are on the money, and the more things start to click with him and the new offense and the players around him, you should definitely see a better Raiders offense this year.
He had a touchdown pass to Michael Mayer. And I mean, Michael runs a skinny route, and it was the best route I've ever seen him run. Just perfect, crisp. I mean, and we haven't even talked about him yet. He looked phenomenal today. And Geno put that ball. I've been talking a lot about throwing people open. He put that ball where in great coverage, Mayer, if he would not have run a perfect route, wouldn't have been open. Runs a perfect route. But Geno put it in front of him right on the money. And I just watched Max and all the vets just go, wow. And I don't know who said it, but somebody goes, ooh, times have changed.
Yeah, yes, very, very much so, very much so. And listen, Geno looks good out there, man. And in terms of Michael Mayer, listen, that's somebody again. I think a lot of us root for. I don't want to say it's
Yeah,
a weird
great kid.
situation, but it's a unique situation that he's in, right?
Mhm.
And much like Aiden, right? He kind of has that chip on his shoulder. Let's not forget, Michael was that guy in college, okay? In terms of tight end, Michael was a man amongst boys at Notre Dame. Just go watch, right? Forget the stats
He
that you
was
can
the
look at.
number one tight end in the draft in 23.
100%. Michael was a man amongst boys out there, right? So, like you and I have talked about, right? Imagine him, when Brock Bowers gets drafted, imagine how that feels. But I think it adds to the chip on his shoulder. I think he's a special piece you need to watch this season because, again, that versatility of the pass catchers they have. Michael Mayer should have a really good season. He should be one-on-one or open a lot of the times this upcoming season. So he's already looking good. The sky's the limit. So whatever Chip Kelly can do with Brock and with Michael, it's going to open things up for sure.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line. Now we're in May and nothing is set in stone. And for the interest of everyone at home, they do a lot of tinkering and experimenting in OTAs. So nothing's locked. But with the one offensive line today that ran, as the one unit, obviously Colton, Jordan Meredith at left guard, JPJ at center, Alex Capa, Delmar, DJ Glaze, the mule at right tackle. Watching that Parham Meredith battle, that's going to be fun to watch, isn't it?
1,000%. Both guys are very, very versatile, right? And experienced as well. And again, back to just what Pete Carroll and what these guys have been saying the whole time: competition, right? It's not necessarily I don't like this guy, but it's just hey, we're all competing to win a position, right? Starting position, don't get me wrong, but we're competing to make each other better. So I think that's going to be a good thing because both guys are capable and both guys have played at one point or another. The Raiders had to lean on them heavily. So at this point, it's going to be cool to see what they do with that offensive line. A lot of different mixtures, that they can do between those two, but time will tell what happens.
Zeke, I want to go back to something. You and I were there when I was talking to Chip Kelly. Well, we all were, but um, I watched a lot of film of him at Oregon and then at Philly and his other stops in the NFL and then UCLA and then Ohio State. And I asked him, I just said, when you first got the job, you told us you adapted your system. I've watched all your film going back to Oregon, or a lot of it, not all of it. And have you changed? Or is it an example of what you said? You just change your system to the personnel you have. And he's like, it's absolutely that. To me, Chip Kelly is humbled. There was a time that the word on the street about Chip was he's pretty arrogant. But no one's ever said he's anything other than an offensive savant. I didn't get the vibe of arrogance in the least bit from him. I got the vibe from him is he's just a guy that loves coaching ball and he loves to be coaching ball. I thought he was warm. And I know this I had an opportunity to talk to two offensive players outside of the facility recently, and they love him. They think he's been tremendous. I'd love your thoughts on Chip Kelly.
Yeah, so it all kind of ties in, Hondo. I mean, you hit it on the head in terms of changing their system to fit their players and what their players do best. I think we can all attest that the Raiders' past offensive coordinators have not necessarily always done that. So it's going to be, to see Chip kind of come in with that mindset of, hey, let's do what we do best and do well. Let's stick to that. I think it's going to be. I think that's why the players love him already, right? It hasn't like he's been. It's not like he's been here that long. The players already love him because they know Chip is going to do everything he can within his system to fit his players and what they do well. And players love that. The proof is in the pudding, right? He's only been here a couple of months, and players are already raving. That's because they trust him already.
Yeah.
So once those guys go, start playing some games and things start working out in their favor, that trust is only going to build. But I agree with you. Humbled. You can kind of tell, right? He's had his highs and his lows, but here he is, right? And when I think just in life in general, when you're great at something, but you've been humbled and you get a chance to kind of come back around and show what you've learned, it makes you even better. And I think that's where Chip is right now. I think he's eager to prove himself again in the league. So it's going to be exciting.
All right. We're going to end with just this last thing. Well, I know I have a couple more questions. AJ Cole spoke. Now he's the highest paid punter in the history of the NFL. And he still can't take himself seriously, can he?
No, good guy. Very down to earth dude for sure.
All right. Let's talk about Jacoby. He's underrated. Dropped no balls last year. You heard me ask Chip Kelly. I said, how big of a blessing is it for Geno to have Jacoby? And he laughed and goes, how big of a blessing is it for the coaches? And then I asked Geno about Jacoby and the fact he doesn't drop balls. Jacoby doesn't get the respect outside of this building, but boy, he's got it inside, doesn't he?
Oh, yes, and he's had it for a while. I think the reason why he does it is because wide receivers who are WR1 are usually a little bit louder, a little bit more me.
Prima
And
donna.
Jacoby, say it again.
Prima donnas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And Jacoby's anything but that, right? And I think that's kind of what adds to him being underrated is because he lets his play do all of the talking, right? Jacoby doesn't just talk half the time and let us play do the other half of the talking. Jacoby lets his play do all the talking, and it speaks loudly enough. Even before he got to Las Vegas, it spoke. In Las Vegas, it speaks. And I think that's why he's a little bit underrated. But just turn on the film, watch the man play. He's dependable, right? He's usually going to get open. He's going to catch those balls every time you throw it to him. What more can you really ask for, right? He's going to catch what you throw to him. He's not going to be loud. He's not going to be a distraction to your team. I think that goes a long way.
I thought it was interesting today watching. They put some interesting guys back there fielding punts, and it's going to be interesting to watch who wins that because Pete Carroll likes his special teams to be aggressive. This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Pete Carroll wants his special teams to be special. That's been a MO for Pete Carroll, right? Like that's what you know about Pete Carroll. He values all three phases of the game, and you're going to see that this season.
I don't remember who I was talking to about this, so I apologize. It doesn't mean that they're not important to me, but uh, it is very clear this is a different team from the way they practice. I mean, last year you and I both talked about it. Seemed like sometimes in practice there was wasting a lot of time. They had the big screen TVs, which was great, so then they could go watch stuff right then. But sometimes it seemed that practice was a little lethargic. There is none of that anymore. They got a lot of work in an hour and 45 minutes.
Efficiency, they're efficient and they're energetic, and I think that goes a long way in something like this in terms. And again, I said earlier, right? You can only prepare so much, right? You can't guarantee any results on Sundays, but what you can do is control what you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. And that's what they're doing here, and you can feel it. You can feel it, man. And honestly, once you get that energy pumping in you when you walk outside, you kind of forget about the game on Sunday. At least from my perspective, right? We're not even worried about the season. We're worried about the practice and looking what this guy's doing, what that guy's doing. It's amazing to watch the turnaround. And I'll be honest with you, we've been to a couple of different, a bunch of practices, excuse me, and I keep waiting for the energy to die down, and it never dies down. I keep saying, well, maybe today it's not going to be the same. No, it's the same, and that goes, man. That's huge in football because you need the energy in football, right? You need that. Not only are they being energetic, they're doing that, Hondo, with the heat, right? With all those pads on them, like it speaks to where Pete Carroll is taking this team. And it speaks to his, what he builds everything on is going to be that energy, is going to be that attitude and that effort. So these guys are completely different. And hey, it may only add up to another extra 2 or 3 wins on last season, but we'll take that, right? Nobody thinks they're going to, go all the way to the Super Bowl necessarily, but you're looking for progress. And even the energy has gotten better. So that's progress in itself. So it'll be interesting to see.
So anything else stand out to you? Was there anything that stood out to you today that you're like, ooh, we got your attention?
Not that's really all that interesting. I'm a little bit of a nerd, as you already know, Hondo, when it comes to defensive line and when it comes to linebacker. Those guys weren't even really necessarily doing anything extravagant like that, but I was just I was happy to see those guys moving and getting around, and a lot of new faces, obviously, especially in the linebacking group. But those guys are going to bring it this year. So I would say look at the variety they have at the linebacker position and how they use those guys. It'll be worth watching.
I'll tell you what stood out to me was the amount of coaching going on in the field. Chip Kelly alluded to it in his presser when he talked about, I'm not messing with guys' stance. I'm not the position coach. I'm the coordinator. Um, I was stunned. At one point, I stopped, and there were 8 or 9 coaches all coaching individually.
Mhm.
And I know that for people that aren't at practice, you'll see a play stop like when you're going 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. A play will stop and a couple coaches will talk.
Mhm.
I can't tell you the number of times there's 8, 9 coaches. The amount of coaching, I'm gonna be very blunt. I've been around a long time, covered a lot of teams. It it was stunning to me today. Did that stick out to you at all?
Yes, more specifically for me though, on the front side of things. Like even when they were hitting
Mm,
the sleds, it seemed like the coaches were going in depth about, hey, this is how we do things, and you can tell they were really honing in on technique and how big of a deal that is to them. So yes, I definitely noticed that again, the sleds, and then again linebacker drills. It seemed like a lot of explanation was going on before they started, and then they allowed the guys to kind of sit back and watch other guys that knew what they're doing, watch and learn, and then you come out and do it
yeah.
as well. So definitely noticed that. Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right. So Zeke will be back with me in 10 or 11 days. We'll be right back here in the building for mandatory mini camp, 3 days. That we're gonna have a lot every single day for you. But Zeke, every single day is killing it with great articles, great videos, doing a great job. Zeke, you're the best, brother.
Thank you, Hondo. I hope everybody's excited. I hope you're excited, Hondo. I think when we first got back together in the offseason, one of the first questions I asked you was, are you excited? And win, lose, or draw, excited to just be here, excited for a new season, right? It's a new season. So it's going to be cool to see where the Raiders go this year. I think they're heading in the right direction.
Real quick, tell everybody where to find you on social media, will you?
Yes, sir. On X, easy TREZ_SI. Had to think about that for a second. Easy TREZ_SI.
Awesome. Hey, come on in the room with me. We'll see you
Yes,
all
sir.
later.